Lakshmi. Today we're focusing on emotional well-being. There are times in our lives when talking to a friend or a family member isn't good enough in finding a resolution to a problem we might be facing. We need someone from the outside to come in, bring it a new perspective, possibly even suggest a few solutions. What is the role of a counsellor? How can a counsellor help us? Let's find out with Ashish Mhathre. Ashish, why should one turn to a counsellor, and in what situations?
I guess, Lakshmi, we do face different situations in our lives, and several times some of these situations can bog us down, it can overwhelm us, and meeting a counsellor or talking to a counsellor can help you. A couple of things about meeting a counsellor or talking to a counsellor is different than talking to a friend. Is about a counsellor is somebody you don't know. The person doesn't have any stake in your life. There is no agenda that person has in your life, and that makes it easier for the counsellor to be objective about the challenges you might be facing. Counsellor is typically a trained person who knows how to facilitate a clear thinking process as well as clear feeling process, where your thinking and feeling is in sync. Several times some of these challenges or this feeling of overwhelming is about thinking is in a different direction and feeling is in a different direction. So putting that two together is something that you can do with a counselor.
Ashish, is counselling today a luxury for the average Indian? Or are they price grades? Because obviously, okay, there is some counselling in society that available in society that I know is free.
Sure.
But not all counsellors are free. I mean, obviously, counsellors have to survive as well. You have to put bread on your table as well.
Absolutely.
But there are varying, specialisms here. There are varying prices here. What do people need to be aware of when they're trying to choose a counsellor? Also, is the process of choosing a counsellor just like the process of choosing any other specialist support service, like a doctor, for example? So there has to be some sort of an alignment there in wavelengths. Maybe you can relate to the person, therefore it helps you open up.
Sure.
Could you shed some light on these two things?
So I guess first of all, what I heard you saying is about cost, and it's about is it really affordable to everybody? I would like to think yes, it is affordable to almost everybody. It doesn't matter what part of society you come from.
So how much does a counsellor's time cost?
Sure. So generally, if I talk about Bangalore as a city, a counselling can cost you, standard counselling will cost you anything from 400 rupees to, I guess, 4,000 rupees, depends upon whom you go to. Again, counselling being a service.
Is this an hour service?
Yeah, it's an hour-long service.
So there's the whole price range,
Correct.
Depending on what people can afford and how much of an experienced person or what sort of a specialized service they might require. The price range varies from 400 to 4,000.
Correct. And I guess it's about experience more than specialization. Though it costs about 400 to 4,000 rupees. This being a primary as a service, most of the counsellor have a sliding scale, and most of the counsellor take an approach of not refusing the service to somebody just because they cannot afford it. So if you're open about it and if you're able to talk to your counsellor about how much you're willing to pay, so there's a possibility that counsellor may agree to whatever it may be. I would encourage that anybody who has challenge, who wants to seek help and don't know whether they can afford or not, they should have a discussion with their counsellor.
That's good, because then I think it becomes a whole lot more accessible, to everybody.
Sure.
Because whilst there is, I guess, counselling available for free from time to time,
it is,
at certain places in society. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know where these, where they are available for free. It's good to know that if you do choose a counsellor that you sort of get along with, and if you do find their prices a little, on the higher side, that you can have a discussion then to see what can be worked out mutually.
Sure. You probably have to look at some of the credentials that a counsellor, has. So there are a lot of people who are out there who call themselves counsellor, and they may not really have all the skills or the quality, or even probably a correct attitude towards counselling. So maybe you want to explore and ask you a question about what kind of approach that the counsellor takes typically.
That sounds a bit like me shopping for my dentist.
Yes.
I go meet a few people.
Absolutely.
Get their, sort of diagnosis.
Sure.
And see how much they're willing to explain to me what's going on and what needs to be fixed and how they're going to fix it.
Sure.
Before I say that, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable, I can trust this person, because information is power.
Absolutely.
Because if the more informed we are, the more we can help ourselves and manage the situation.
Yes,
yeah.
You're right. And I guess the good part of counseling relationship is that any question that you may have in your mind, you can very openly ask, and no counselor, I promise you, will get offended about the question that you may have asked.
Now, what also comes alongside affordability is the amount of time it takes to address an issue. How many hours? So, could you shed some light?
Sure.
On this.
Sure. So yeah, I agree. I guess all of us would like to deal with our problem in the shortest time possible.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to do in life.
Yeah, I think I can think of an example where a daughter tells her mother that she's going through a lot because of the divorce, and she probably needs to go see a counselor.
Sure.
So she comes back to the first session, and the mom's probably saying, "So you found your answers?" I don't think it's possible to find answers in one session.
You're right. Yeah, and counseling is a process, and I guess it largely depends upon our clients, or if you're seeking counseling, how much do you really bring to the table, and how fast you're willing to open up yourself. Also, any kind of change takes time. But I want to say counseling for the most part, cannot be a very fast process as the general expectation is.
So does it mean that we can say that it can take anywhere between a few weeks to a few months, depending on the intensity of the challenges the person's facing?
Sure, exactly. I would say that it can take anything up to from 4 sessions to, I wouldn't cap it the upper number of sessions.
Because obviously it depends on where they are in life and how long the problem's been going on for.
And it depends upon the client's goal, Lakshmi. That the fact is, sometimes you deal with one challenge and then you realize there is something different that you want to work on.
And it also, I guess, means that when someone does turn to a counselor, they have to come with an open mind.
Sure.
And sort of with a sense of honesty as well. Because and obviously it takes a lot of courage, I think, to say that, okay, I do need to talk to someone who can possibly help me more than a friend or family can.
Sure.
And to accept that and to act upon it, given a societal sort of mindset. It takes a lot, I think.
Yes, and I guess you're right on the point that it's not easy to go and talk to a stranger, especially in some of the cultures like Indian cultures. And it does take a lot of openness.
How is it being a counselor? So, I mean, from a counselor point of view, what is it like?
It's a very rewarding process, or rewarding work rather. So one of the first thing as a counselor, it's a study of yourself. And you really have to learn a lot more about yourself. At the same time, when you're working with a client and you see them going through some of the challenges, itself is a very educating process. And there is a lot of reflection in the time when you're away from the client that you do about what kind of life that you've lived. And
so you tend to reflect a lot.
Yes.
What do you think are the biggest, challenges in society today when it comes to emotional well-being?
And I guess I'm going to have to give you my personal perspective on that. I believe, in today's world, there is a lot more pressure on each individual when it comes to relationships, when it comes to work, when it comes to even play, that have a level of perfection, have to be performing everywhere. And I believe that could be sometimes really heavy on a person. And several times people do so-called perform, but they're not able to, pat their back and say that, yes, I did whatever I could in my best control. And I think that really causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of suppression of feeling. So there is a lot of expectation out of relationships, at workplace, and even friendships. I guess that pressure can be really, really challenging. The other challenge that this triggers is that coping mechanism that people use. Largest amount of time, people, to deal with these problems or these challenges, they just cope with the problem rather than seek a closure on the problem. And this coping mechanism could be something that you think that you're dealing with the problem, but there's a possibility you might be shoving it under carpet. And that sometime later on can come and haunt you. So I guess the coping mechanism put together with the amount of pressure that we have to do everything fast and everything quick, that really makes it difficult for us to live life, fulfilling life. And that can certainly impact our mental health.
Thank you very much, Ashish, for being on Chai with Lakshmi.
Pleasure's all mine.
And thank you too for joining us on this episode. If you'd like to get in touch with Ashish, just write into us on wellbeing@chaiwithlakshmi.com. On the subject line, don't forget to put Ashish's name. Do leave us your comments. Until the next episode, stay inspired.